12 seconds. For some, like bull riders, that amount of time can feel like an eternity. However, for contestants on a timed game show, this time is short. But for me, those 12 seconds changed the outcome of my entire life.
I was in labor and I pushed for 2 hours for Dylan, which while he was in the birth canal too long, he lost oxygen.
This is my story. When I was born, everything seemed normal. Nothing really seemed wrong. It wasn't until about a year old that my parents started seeing something was different. And at that time, they really didn't suspect anything because every child progresses differently. And I wasn't progressing properly.
I think it was walking. At the normal age, 8, 9 months, when you kind of start seeing progress, there wasn't really any starting to happen. And they always had the downward feet. The feet pointed downwards, which there's so many kids that kind of resemble that anyway, but I didn't really think anything was wrong.
However, after time had passed, my parents really began to see that I wasn't progressing right. I was not walking on my feet properly. I was not sitting properly, and just things weren't normal. So that's when my parents decided to go see a specialist to see if something was wrong.
The neurologist decided that we were going to take a scan of the brain and see where there was oxygen loss. So they did, and that's how they was able to come up with the diagnosis of cerebral palsy. Now, in that, they did not find much brain damage at all.
Cerebral palsy was the diagnosis. And for everyone who has it, this disorder comes from damage to the brain and is most common at birth. It affects the muscles in the body. And for me, my muscles in my legs grow at a slower pace. So when my bones grow, they stretch all my muscles, making them extremely tight. Now I'm very fortunate because I've seen many kids wheelchair bound for their lives because their cases are more severe. Every case is different, and I am fortunate. But for all of us, this disorder is not something that can be cured. Now, the first time I really see myself as being different was when I started elementary school at Coteau Bayou Blue. I was different from other kids, and I could tell that. And I'm so thankful that I had the kindergarten teacher that I had at the time, Ms. Boveland, because she helped me get out my shell a little bit and make friends. Because if not, I would have just stayed in because I knew I was different. And especially when my special ed teacher would come around, I did not want to go with her at all because I did not want to be labeled as having a disorder.
Dylan is hanging on to Mary Bonvillain's leg, saying, I don't want to go with her, I don't want to go. And me telling Dylan that I said, we're going to be best friends. By the time you leave Coteau Bayou Blue, we will be best friends. We will want to do everything together and best friends. And it took him forever to come with me, but he finally did.
Miss Kate definitely became one of my best friends who not only stayed with me through elementary school, but also junior high and high school as well. She's a big reason that I got out of my comfort zone and began to realize that I could be a motivator for those with disorders who are going through similar things that I'm going through. And in fact, when I was still that same age, I was named Poster Child of Louisiana. And together, me and my family helped raise money for those also battling disorders.
I was proud, of course, but it also, being he was the poster child, it made me kind of research more into cerebral palsy and things like that, and people that I've come across over the years that I didn't even realize had it.
My parents raised me to never let my disorder define me, and they wanted me to grow up just like any other kid. So I found my true love in sports, whether I was watching it or playing my favorite sport, baseball.
Oh, you watched every sports that was available on TV. We even watched hockey.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man, we'd have to I want to come home from work, watch the news. He's sitting in his lounge chair, wanting to watch hockey. I said, "Oh man, I can't take no more of this hockey stuff." I told you, Granny, you know.
So I think it was part of his love for the game. One, it was, you know, like I said, people didn't treat him different. No one on the team, none of the parents. It was just Dylan playing ball just like everybody else.
And right as everything seemed to be going well for me, whether it was on the field or in the classroom or just in life in general, I got news once again that would change my life. In the 4th grade, I went to the Shriners Hospital in Shreveport, and the doctor told my mom and I that I would need a major surgery on my legs.
I think it was not just the news, but it was the shock of it, that it's happening now, that I'm not saying it was going to be heartbreaking, but it was just another life-changing moment for all of us.
This life-changing moment happened on June 24th, 2009. 18 surgical incisions, muscles cut and moved everywhere, a metal plate in my hip, and pins in my feet.
It was tough seeing the process, seeing the therapies, seeing the other kids in that hospital going through, which were in worse condition than what Dylan was. Seeing their struggles, hearing them kids crying at night, that was hard.
He also had to do a lot of rehab, 6 weeks of rehab. And so he was up there, in Shreveport during that time. And so that's where I seen where the stress was really big.
And even after I got released from the hospital, I still did physical therapy that was on crutches for the next year. And then it slowly started to occur to me that my baseball playing days were over, that the one true passion I had at that time was taken from me.
After the surgery, he played, another year or two. And I seen where the other kids were starting to outrun him. They were getting older. They were starting to run faster. And I kept saying, I hope he can see that before somebody pulls him out of the game.
Yeah, when Dylan had the surgery and was told he wasn't able to play anymore, it was hard. I don't think it was hard just for him. It was kind of hard for me too, because it was something that we did to bond. I coached from T-ball all the way up to 12 years old. It was something that was kind of taken away from my life for a little while.
And I have all these game balls and trophies to remember all my seasons by, but that was still a tough time, not only emotionally, but physically as well. I went from the lowest of the low at that time. And it's so crazy how the next chapter of my life started so fast. Because like I said, I went from the lowest of the low to basically the highest of the high. Because after surgery, I was not only nominated, but I won an international award for academics for kids with disorders.
Dylan Demong. Domain. Okay, say it again.
Domain.
Say it again.
Domain.
Domain. I ruined it in rehearsal. I ruined it again. At least I'm consistent, aren't I? Dylan is 11 and comes from Gray, Louisiana, correct? Very good, I got that right. Dylan hasn't let cerebral palsy hold him back from excelling academically.
Once we got there and we realized that it was the elite few that got this kind of award, that was just intelligent and did things for others that went above and beyond.
Following this award, I was interviewed by our local newspaper, and this is something that I still kept in my family because not only what it meant to us back then, but what it still means to us today. So in this newspaper article, it reads, Dylan plays baseball and is on a bowling team, but his achievements extend inside the classroom. Teachers say that if he keeps up his good work, he will have no problem reaching his goal of becoming a sports newscaster. And this means everything to me, because to say that I had those goals back then and to never lose sight of that, and 10, 11 years later, I'm still following that goal and living the dream right now, means the world to me. It truly does. And if I could have in the 5th grade, I would have jumped straight into college to become a sports broadcaster. But couldn't do that back then, and my playing days for baseball were over. So I had to come up with a new passion, which I did in music, which presented its own physical struggles when it came to marching band, especially when I got to high school.
Going into high school with that mindset of how difficult marching band would be, for myself, I always thought that Dylan would have a lot harder time So whenever band camp came and I was drenched and tired and exhausted, I always, in my mind, commended Dylan for just getting through it. If I'm being very honest, Dylan always had this high confidence in himself that he could do anything without that really being an aspect.
Dylan wasn't too noticeable when he was marching. He didn't stick out, let me put that. Like it blended in very well. I saw it differently just because on the field next to people and you can kind of see a little bit closer, but I mean, as far as far away, he definitely made the effort to make sure that he blended in everyone else.
So marching band was a struggle because we had practice 5 days a week, constantly practicing our 10-minute marching show, which is tough for anyone to do. But definitely the toughest part about marching band was marching in the Mardi Gras parades down here.
The marching band with Mardi Gras and parades down here, I didn't know if he could do it because it's a long walk. And then he was going to stick out with just the way he walked. He kind of reminded me of a high stepper. But I chaperoned every parade, stood next to him, and all the parents, they just, oh, look at him go, and it was just so rewarding to hear that.
I loved band and I loved music, but once I graduated high school, I knew that it was my time to pursue my real dreams of becoming that sportscaster that I had set in 5th grade. And when I came to Southeastern, all those dreams came true.
And Dylan immediately started the Southeastern Channel. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a sports reporter, anchor, play-by-play announcer. And we were able to start working him into those roles in these shows and programs right off the bat. And it didn't take long to where he started making waves of really how good he was. And he started working his way up the ladder in a hurry.
Over the last 4 years, I've been able to cover Saints and Pelicans games and every Southeastern sporting event that I could possibly imagine. And on top of that, I've learned skills both on and off camera to make myself as marketable as possible. 2, 1, and take a good replay. But most importantly, I'm very proud to have been a leader at the Southeastern Channel.
There's a lot of behind the scenes work. There's a lot of writing a show and producing.
Anytime I do like a little package or something, I always go to Dylan because he's such a good writer. I think people don't realize how good of a writer he is.
He taught me how to edit. He taught me how to do packages. He's in the process of teaching me how to direct.
Despite all the really good students that have come through the Southeastern Channel over the years, Dylan is probably the most multi-skilled student that we've had and we've produced. Not only is he outstanding in front of the camera, but he's incredible behind the camera as well.
Never in a million years could I have dreamed about all the awards that I've achieved over the last 4 years. I've been a part of some great telecasts that have placed top in the entire nation. And to also have my own work recognized nationally has truly been a blessing.
He never even mentioned or talked about his disability. He didn't want people to feel sorry for him or pity him or to give him anything or provide any special treatment. He just took it. It was not even a thought to any of us. We just were able to treat him like everybody else. There was never even a hint of any disability that he had. And even on camera, because most of the time when he shot, it's from the waist up, you would never know. You would never have any idea. He looks like the most polished student anchor and reporter that you could want.
Anytime he was feeling down about himself, I would just tell him and reassure him that he is not alone. There's so many other people with things that you cannot even see that they're struggling with a whole lot worse than he was.
And I always told him that God compensated for him, that he didn't give him good legs, but he gave him a good brain and heart to where he can do anything else that he wanted to do.
I hope to continue to never have to work a day in my life because this job truly is everything that I've always wanted to do. My love of sports will always go on, and I hope to one day do this professionally and have my audience members see me as someone more than just a disability. I want them to label me as a person that knows what he's talking about, someone that they want to see on TV. and not just someone who has cerebral palsy. And I hope one day to continue to do this book and fill it with pictures and memories and moments that make up the rest of my life, because my story is far from over.